Afternoon, it's Wednesday, July 23rd, and I'm Max Brantley, and we'll talk about news today on the Arkansas Times website. Probably the biggest news of the morning is the news from the Secretary of State's office that the petition drive to put a minimum wage increase on the ballot still needs about 15,000 signatures. We knew they were going to be short. They've got 30 days to get them, but that's a pretty high hurdle to cross. They had about a 2/3 validation rate on their first go-around, so they're going to have to get 20,000 or so signatures to be sure they're okay. Big issue for Democrats because the minimum wage is a big part of their campaign in the fall. They hope to have it on the ballot too. Speaking of fall campaigns, there were sort of some funny little ways that news was made in the Democratic race for governor, the Democratic candidate that is, Mike Ross, getting continued favorable national attention. He was on MSNBC today, and Huffington Post has written about him again for his domestic violence program. He was inspired by the story of a Eureka Springs woman who was allegedly killed by her abusive boyfriend. He's come up with a domestic violence program, more shelters, more training for law enforcement officers, a database for people who have protective orders. I think this is something that potentially could be a factor in this race. I think reaching out to people in ways that they can understand are always good, while others may be talking about some esoteric policy issues. This truly is an issue that hits home. And speaking of issues that hit home, ASA Hutchinson appeared before the Farm Bureau yesterday and just really flubbed a question from the Farm Bureau on whether he was a member. As a city attorney in Northwest Arkansas, he could easily have said no, he was not, but he kind of didn't know what to say. Mike Ross knew exactly what to say. He said, of course I'm a member. I pay my $35 dues every year and I get to go to a barbecue for it. He was much more at home in that setting than Asa Hutchinson was. This is one of those things that really doesn't mean very much at all as a policy matter, but it kind of gives you a sense of how easily politicians move in the world and what they must live. Elsewhere on our blog today, an interesting story from the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, which upheld a ruling that North Little Rock police officers were not liable for the death by hypothermia of a drunk man they dropped off at a rural interstate exit in Lonoke County back in 2010 on a very cold night. Police officers don't have a duty to save you from yourselves, so it's spurred a lot of discussion on our website. Elsewhere, there's an interesting story developing in Jacksonville at Little Rock Air Force Base. We really don't know what's going on. The base is under lockdown, has been for 3 hours. As yet, we have no report of anything untoward happening, except for a report of a suspicious person, but people on the base have been asked to stay inside. Check with the blog later today, and we hope to find out what this is all about. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.